my autistic brain just unhooked from 52 years of being pressured into being an holistic thinker. And I have been coaching for 20 years, and I have been in professional personal development, psychology, leadership for 35 years. And I am a bottom-up thinker. Coaching, and the way I was introduced to coaching is CBT, like change your thinking, change your life. And that is just the tiniest tool in my toolkit. And yes, I'm holding my lipstick as a microphone. Subconsciously, my brain is always reaching for safety. Do it right, do it right, do it right. And in my family, there's this whole, like, one of our trauma bonds is you're doing it wrong. And so my sweet little brain and some of the parts in my head tend to struggle with an internal message of you're doing it wrong. And because I'm doing that, and because those parts are always kind of firing off in protective, preventative mode, I haven't always stood in the genius that I am. And getting an actual diagnosis of ADD 3 years ago, and then autism last year, and you should see people's faces when I mention that I'm autistic. It's exhausting. But the more I learn about how my autistic self shows up, how she processes, how she thinks, everything makes sense. All the hard makes sense, and I'm finally getting to the place where I'm like, oh, this is my genius, because I'm not subconsciously trying to do it that way anymore. I'm not saying that way is bad, but that way does not work for me. And so I am somebody, and this is one of the things that makes me a genius at coaching, and one of the things my client said to me last week. And if you're one of the 3 people that I worked with last week, y'all don't even know how much you helped me by just doing your thing as my client. But one of my clients very specifically said, it's like you're a doctor. She's like, you really get me. I have permission to share this, by the way. It's like, you really get me. You get where I'm coming from, all the different directions. So her business self, her leadership self, her managing other people's self, her mother and grandmother self, her midlife self, her health self, and some of the health problems she's had. Like, I didn't just get one direction from her. I got her in all directions. And she said, and it's like you have a medicine bag full of different helps and you pull just the right one for me. And that's so true. Many years ago, I used to say that I'm like Mary Poppins. I have a bag of soul medicine. And when I coach a client, it's not top-down thinking. Here's where you want to go. Here's the 3 steps. You can find that on YouTube for free. I take in so much information, data, sensory experience. I'm even subconsciously picking up your breathing patterns. I noticed that back before we did Zoom coaching, like we had phone coaching, and I could hear people's breathing patterns. And that was a part of the information that I use to help my clients see themselves and move gently, softly in the direction of their dreams versus the shit shame show of CBT or change your thinking, change your life, or PTFAR or CTFAR, which is like, oh, just change your thinking. Oh, just do this. And that is a purely cognitive approach and does not pay attention to either my system or the system of my clients, where their body and other information is a part of the process. And instead of, like, I didn't even realize I was trying to fit myself into top-down thinking boots. I've always known that my gifts are in processing and the way I see information, and having the language of being a bottom-up processor helps me understand myself. It helps me stand taller in who I am. So if you're late diagnosed autistic, or if you're somebody that thinks and experiences the world from 72 directions instead of 1 or 2, I see ya. I gotcha. My clients generally do. And they love the support from all those directions. And this is why I require an excessive amount of sleep. Even my husband was like, I've never met anybody who sleeps as much as you. I used to fall asleep at all the slumber parties early. And I talked to a friend that I knew in college the other day that is a psychotherapist, counselor, been doing it for years. And I mentioned to him that I had been diagnosed with autism. And then and of course he didn't see it. And I explained a few things. He was like, oh, I see it now. And then we were talking about sleep stuff. And he was like, you always required so much sleep. Well, that's what happens when you see and sense so much and your brain has to process it. So with that, I'm going to go lie in my bed. If you have any questions, maybe I'll make a TikTok answer.